and that they know how to act quickly when something happens.
The problem I see is that might take the 2 or 3 minutes people need when they want to get out there. But anyways, we'll see what measures you take with
Sure.
that. Another.
Well, for instance, in the Hebdo, the incidents in Paris, we saw that happen real time, and surge was turned off immediately across the entire city.
Okay, interesting.
Right.
A few days ago, it got really late. Public transportation stops quite early here in Munich, so I took an Uber.
Yeah.
And I was very happy that I had a female driver, actually, because I couldn't stop thinking about the security issues. Like in India, a female client was raped by a guy who was known for his violent history. So I'd like to know, do you think that you still choose your drivers too laxly?
I didn't hear the last part of that question. Do I still too much
choose the drivers too laxly? Like, don't you control them enough before they get an Uber, before they become an Uber driver?
Uber.
Exactly.
So, I mean, look, the first part is a situation like what you've described is pretty terrible. I think all of us have mothers, wives, daughters, sisters.
Some of us are mothers, wives.
Exactly.
I understand. We want to. So I mean, the first part is just we want to make sure that that never happens. There's things we can do when we're onboarding drivers, things that go above and beyond what the government does when they hand out licenses. And there's things we can do to make sure that Uber is the safest way to get around. I think basically it's not just about making sure, though, that we're the safest way to get around. It's about being a part of an effort to make cities safer, period. And I think we can play a role there. There are a lot of things we do. It's background checks, and I talked a little bit about that. It's it's background checks. It's making sure we get customer feedback and take that customer feedback and act on it very quickly. It means customer ratings. So we have 5-star ratings. It means GPS tracking. It means you can share your ride with friends and family that they can see your ride as it's happening. So those are sort of the early kinds of features that you roll out to provide for a safe platform. And then the second part of that is, well, what can you do to monitor cars to make sure that you're preventing things from happening in the moment, right? So like, are there ways to watch for, like, how is somebody driving? Are they driving recklessly? Could that be leading to an accident sometime soon? How many hours has a driver been on the road? There's a number of different data mining techniques to find behavior that might lead to something and preventing that. So at the end of the day, we want our company, we want our service to not just be the safest, but to be known to be innovating in how to bring safety to the table. And obviously have a huge amount of empathy and just feel terrible about these situations that can happen from time to time.
Okay, so you think in a few weeks or months or years, I can't feel comfortable with taking a male Uber driver?
I think most people who take Ubers feel far safer in them than in a taxi.
You think so?
I
But
do.
they're controlled quite harshly.
If you had a problem with a taxi driver, he felt unsafe, who would you contact?
The company, taxi driver company.
Do you think they would answer the phone?
Of course.
So in most
They
cities,
they all have a number in there.
Yeah,
you can identify them easily. Take a picture, call the company. The guy's out.
So there are certain taxi systems that might be high quality. I haven't run into a lot of them. And what I think we've seen is that quite often complaints do come into taxi systems, and they're not dealt with at all. Now, we can always be better, and we want to be better. But I think the data bears out that we are the safest way to get around from point A to point B, but there's still a lot for us to do.
Okay, I see. Now, I'd like to know how many people here have already taken an Uber taxi? Wow, about more than half. Now I would like to see as many hands as I just saw with questions for Travis. Go ahead.
Can you talk about what happens when driverless cars start competing with you for starters?
Yeah.
Talk about driverless cars and what you think of that as competition in the future. And jobs, obviously.
Noch ein paar.
Yep.
Noch eine.
Well, look, I think Google's spending a lot of time working on driverless car technology. And there's going to be a whole new wave of disruption and innovation that comes from it. And a whole bunch of, I think, complex issues as it relates to labor, not just here in Europe, but really anywhere. And I think you have to be pro-innovation in the long run. But again, I think what it comes down to is some of what I said today, which is, are there ways to partner with cities to bring this technology to bear in a way that sort of shepherds it in a safe and maybe more comfortable way? There are ways to innovate there too, but it's going to be probably the significant disruption that again that I think Google is really spearheading. That's going to be something that we all got to spend a lot of time making sure happens properly.
Okay. Who else?
So,
Mike Butcher.
so
Where is he? Sorry.
okay.
Oh.
So, as an economist, you say you're creating like 3,700 whatever jobs, and I'm a fan of Uber because I like the service. The question for me is what the net effect is. How many jobs are lost somewhere else and here, and I think it's actually amazing schedule of DLD team, like to put the two speeches, like the one we heard before and this one together, because at the end of the day, disruption is also responsibility.
Yeah.
And like your talks today and your talks a year ago have a very different tone. And the question here is, what's the responsibility at the end of the day to create such an amazing disruptive company, and how do you actually care about the side effects? We don't talk about pollution here, but like if you are a nuclear power company, you have to care about the side effects. Yeah. What do you think are your side effects?
So, I talked a little bit about some of the side effects and the very positive side effects that happen when Uber comes to a city. I think maybe San Francisco is probably the best example. It's our oldest city. All the research reports said that San Francisco was a $120 million a year spend on taxi and limo when we entered. Now, we do taxis as well as black cars, as well as what we call UberX in San Francisco. But Uber on its own in San Francisco is now over $500 million a year, right? So it's multiplying the size of the pie, and that's when you see real job creation, not just destruction. And real value, because you see how many people are coming into that system and sort of paying with their wallets, if that makes sense.
Okay. Do we have to stop? Oh, we already have to stop. We're sorry about that. Thank you so much, Travis, for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we have a little break, but let me just say I consider Uber as only the beginning. I think we will see many Uber models within the next years. Thank you, Travis. Very good to get to know you. And please come back. Please come back in time.